Hello, puzzlers. Welcome to the Small Pieces Big Picture podcast, where you get to decide how all of your pieces fit together to create the big picture of your life. I am your host, Jason Wendroff-Ronicki. The problem I see right now is that everyone is telling you what to do. From what you eat, to the exercise routine you follow, what your mindset should be, how you should make your money, what you should do for fun, and the list goes on and on and on. And you are hurting yourself by following someone else's advice. The only person that advice is good for is the person who created it. In this podcast, I will give you food for thought and assignments on different ways of thinking, feeling, and behaving. I will leave it up to you to figure out how that fits into the big picture of your life. I encourage you to get back to using your intuition of what's right for you and stop listening to the sound bites of others. All the pieces you need to fit together to be whole are already inside of you. You just need to put them together in your own unique way. So let's get to puzzling. Hey everybody, I want to talk to you today about a topic that is really important to me, and it should be important to everybody. It's something that doesn't get talked about quite enough, and that is sleep. Many of us are exhausted all the time. Maybe you're starting to feel a little achy, maybe you can't think clearly. And these all may be some symptoms that you are not getting enough good quality sleep. It is really important to make sure that we have good sleep hygiene, which is our sleep routines that we engage in right before bedtime. And I'm going to give you some of my tips and tricks in order to create a good sleep hygiene habit. Something that we don't think about is that we can go for longer periods of time without food than we can without sleep. So we can go anywhere from about 20 to 50 days or so without any food. We have to still stay well hydrated, so there's a lot of factors involved with that food. But the longest record of anyone going without sleep is 11 days. So we can almost go 2 to 3 times as long without food as we can without sleep. And this is a really critical factor. Most of us know that we have to watch what we eat and exercise, but in my opinion, sleep is the third most important impact on our, not just our physical health, but our mental and emotional health as well. Because without good quality sleep, our anxiety levels rise, our inability to think cohesively can be affected. We can feel more achy and painful in the body, because sleep is the time that our body uses to repair itself on all levels. And what we do right before we go to sleep is an absolute must in order to maintain a healthy lifestyle, and getting better quality sleep can really help. So I want you to think right now, just take a moment and think about what your sleep ritual is. Right? Don't judge it. Just notice, what do you do right before you go to sleep? Are you on your cell phone? Are you watching TV? Are you in bed answering emails? Or are you setting yourself up for successful sleep? Are you meditating before bed? Are you taking a moment just to let go of all of the things throughout the day? It doesn't need to take a whole lot of effort, but it does need to be a ritual so you can go to sleep and get better quality sleep. So before I go into my tips and little tricks, I want you to also think there's 2 different categories of sleepers. So are you a night owl? Do you love to stay up till 12, 1, 2 o'clock in the morning and then sleep later in the morning? Or are you an early bird catches the worm kind of person? Because in order to create proper sleep patterns, sleep hygiene, we need to first be able to identify which one of those categories we fit in. because consistency is really important when creating sleep hygiene. We need to know if we need to schedule our sleep a little bit later or a little bit earlier, depending on which category you fit in. I fit into the night owl category, so I set my boundaries as I go to bed about midnight and wake up at 8 o'clock. And in a moment, we're going to talk about the time that we need to sleep, because for everybody, it is a little bit different and we have to make adjustments based on that. So if you're an early bird, in the early bird category, you need to set your sleep time a little bit earlier. Maybe you need to be in bed by 10 o'clock or 9 o'clock, even if you're getting up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. So, and we're going to talk also about sleep cycles being more important than even the amount of time that you sleep. Okay? So hopefully you've been able to identify which category you are in, because your homework today is going to be to create a sleep hygiene for yourself. So actually write down what you do before you go to sleep, so that this way you can keep on some sort of schedule and keep it consistent every day of the week. So let's talk about one of the most critical factors, I think, not just in our health, but also in creating good sleep patterns, is what we eat. You cannot talk about having good quality sleep without talking about your food intake from the day. And the three most important factors, in my opinion, are how much sugar are you eating, how much caffeine are you drinking, how much alcohol are you drinking. Obviously, we have to look more about that, but if you're drinking a caffeinated cup of coffee right before you go to sleep, and then you have trouble sleeping or can't go to bed until 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock in the morning, then you may have to reduce the amount of sugar or caffeine or even alcohol that you're drinking or eating. So look at your food is the first and foremost step of how to get better quality sleep. Number 2 is looking at your screen usage. That goes for computers, that goes for TV, that goes for cell phones. Now, what happens when we turn on our screens? And our screens disrupt our ability to tell when it's nighttime. So when you are looking at a screen, it is daylight balanced. It is balanced as if it were the sun. So when you turn on your screens before you go to sleep, what it's telling your brain is that it's still daytime. And when the brain thinks that it's daytime, it thinks that during the day we're awake, during the night we sleep. So if you can, turn off your screens a minimum of 30 to an hour before you go to bed, because this way it allows the brain to realize that it is nighttime. And when the brain realizes that it's nighttime, it's able to shut down. It's the same reason why that we can stay up later in the summer because of the daylight than we can in the winter, because in the winter, when the sun goes down earlier, our body starts to shut down. It is just a biological process that happens. It's something that we really cannot control, because it is why people that experience things like seasonal depression, that's a critical factor, is because the light levels tell the body it's time to shut down. And we have to acknowledge those biological processes, or we're just fighting ourselves all the time. With that same idea, tip number 3 is make sure that you go outside. Our body needs to be able to detect when it is daylight and when it's nighttime. It's based on the lumens, or the brightness of the light. If we're inside all day, our body it's not able to register wet daylight and when it's nighttime. That's why when you go into places like a casino, they have no windows and no clocks, because then there's no cue to determine whether it's daylight or whether it's nighttime out. So when you go outside, especially at noontime or sometime in the middle of the day, it'll be able to register with not just the body, but the mind as well, and be able to detect, oh, it's daylight out, I should be awake. And as the sun starts to go down, it registers nighttime, ready to go to sleep. So we want to make sure that our body can do that as effectively as possible. Another thing, tip number 4, is make sure that your room at night, especially before going to sleep, is cool. The optimal temperature of your room should be about between 60 and 64 degrees while you're under the covers. First of all, this will save on electric bills. I know ever since I learned this piece of advice, I have my programmed thermostat to shut the heat off to go down to about 60 when I'm in the evening, because you sleep better in cooler temperatures, especially when you're under the covers. If it's already too warm, then your body, it registers that it's daytime and it starts to wake up. So it's very important to make sure that you cool your room down while you're going to sleep. Plus, it'll save on heat and it'll save on electricity so that you don't have to keep your heat on all the time, and you'll get a better night's sleep. Then the tip number 5 is making sure that you have a nighttime ritual. And what I mean by that is many of us, brush our teeth and wash our faces or do some sort of skincare routine before going to sleep. The thing that I have added into my nighttime ritual is making sure I have some essential oils going on in a diffuser, because what that does is it gets my sense of smell going. It triggers in my brain a smell, and smell is very, very important when helping to relax the body. So there are a couple of different oils that I use to help relax my body. Lavender is a good one. There's a couple of oil blends that I love for sleep, like Serenity or Breathe, which is good for respiratory support. There's a couple of different essential oils that I use on a regular basis to trigger in my brain that it is time for bed. So I have added that in my nighttime ritual. A couple of other things that are really good nighttime rituals are meditation, right? Letting go of everything that has happened in the day. And if you're looking to manifest things, what I do before I go to sleep is I think of all of the issues that I had throughout the day, and I use my sleep time as a time to find the solutions. So it allows my body to work on an unconscious level in finding solutions to all of the things that I want to accomplish in my life. And I let the universe give me some of those answers, or just give it time to be creative and to be able to come up with those different solutions to the problems that I have. So those are some of the nighttime rituals that I've incorporated into my bedtime hygiene. Now let's talk about number 6. How much time you need to sleep. Now, generally, it should be anywhere from 7.5 to 9.5 hours. Now, there are some gender differences based on the amount of time we need to sleep. Generally, men need about 7.5 hours and women need about 9.5 hours. So there is a continuum between 7.5 and 9.5 hours of proper sleep. How you want to figure that is mostly based on sleep cycles as well. And sleep cycles are the time that you need when you fall asleep to the time that you wake up. And each sleep cycle is about an hour and a half. And there are apps that you can use to measure how many sleep cycles that you need. So if you've ever noticed that you generally fall asleep at, let's say, 11 o'clock at night, but if you miss that 11 o'clock window, you can't go to bed until 1 o'clock in the morning, that's the sleep cycle. So if you miss the beginning of a sleep cycle, you kind of almost have to wait for the beginning of the next sleep cycle in order for you to get a full night rest. And so a sleep cycle is generally about an hour and a half. And so you need to try to figure out exactly when your sleep cycle begins and ends so that you know what time you need to be in bed, and that you want to make sure that you're waking up at the end of a sleep cycle and not in the middle, because this way you get the most effective, the most deep sleep that you can while you are trying to get this good quality sleep. Number 7 is our sleep habits and consistency of our sleep habits. So I want you to think of what time do you go to bed, and is it consistent? We have about an hour window, right? For me, I go to bed at 12 every night. Sometimes it's 12:30, right? Sometimes it's 11:30, but I try to stay within an hour so that this way my body can get that consistency of sleep. What that means is that if we break up our consistency and we go to bed 10 o'clock one night and midnight the next and 2 o'clock in the morning next, our body doesn't have that habitual trigger that it's bedtime. So you want to set up not just a consistent sleep time, but then also a consistent wake up time. So I wake up at between 8 and 8:30 every single morning. If I don't get up between 8 and 8:30 and let's say, I want to stay in bed a little longer, I'm usually sluggish throughout the rest of the day because my body is saying get up, but then my mind is saying, no, stay asleep. And that fight just breaks up my whole sleeping pattern. So consistency of sleeping patterns is so critical because it gives the body the triggers to go to sleep at a certain time and wake up at a certain time. Staying up late on the weekends breaks those whole patterns. Now, granted, we have to live, we have to, have fun, we have to go out at night, but the sooner that we can get back into those habitual patterns, the better quality sleep that you will have. Now, number 8, let's talk about napping, because so many people maybe get tired in the middle of the day and want to take a nap. Napping is okay, but only as a way to recharge your energy. A nap should be maybe about 20 to 25 minutes, no longer. If you tend to nap for 3 or 4 hours, it probably means you're not getting good quality sleep at night. Or if you have to nap every single day, it may mean that you are not getting good quality sleep at night. All right. It also may mean it may also be tied into your food intake. So it's something definitely take a look at. Maybe it's the way you're using your energy throughout the day. But if you're napping, make sure it's only 20 to 30 minutes and it's not a regular practice, because if you are napping every single day, it's usually an indicator that something else is going on and you need to take a look at those different kinds of things, so that this way we can tune in and really tap in to the most successful ways of getting good quality sleep. And tip number 9, this may be only for people who live in areas where there's a lot of light pollution or sound pollution. You may need to get blackout curtains or even a sound machine. If when you turn off your lights at night, there's still a lot of street light streaming in from outside, having blackout curtains will be very, very helpful because the darker your room is at night, just like with coolness, the darker it is, the better quality sleep you'll get, just because it signals the brain that it is nighttime. And having those blackout curtains are specifically important if you work a night shift, because trying to sleep during the day with the daylight streaming into your bedroom leads to poor quality sleep. If you live in a big city with a lot of noise pollution, also having a sound machine or some sort of background non-discrete noise like waves or static can help to block out the noise pollution from the outside world. And here's my final tip, tip number 10, is look at all of the bedding material that you are using to go to sleep. So look at the clothing that you're wearing. What material is it? Materials like wool and silk and even synthetic material help to pull your body heat away and wick away moisture. Things like cotton tend to hold on to your heat. So you can use that to modulate your heat level as you sleep. So if you're cold when you sleep, you may want to wear cotton pajamas. If you are hot when you sleep, you may want to wear wool, silk, or maybe even synthetic clothing to whisk away that heat. Also make sure that the clothing that you're wearing, if any, actually fit. I was wearing pajamas that were too big, and then as I was sleeping, I would get tangled up in the material of my pajamas, and it would interrupt my sleep. Also look at the bedding that you're using. Make sure that you make your bed every morning so that this way all of your sheets are nice and tight and smooth rather than crumply so that you don't get tangled up. And make sure that the comforter that you're using is also helping to maintain the heat levels that you're looking to maintain. So I know for me, I have two comforters, one that I use during the winter and one that I use during the summer. The one that I use in the winter is very cotton-based and helps to keep me warm, where the comforter that I have for the summer is silk, so it helps to pull away that body heat. So you can have two different types of comforters to help manage the heat levels that you're looking for when you sleep. Also, looking at your mattress itself. Every mattress has a lifespan. Many of us go well beyond that lifespan. So take a look at the manufacturer of the mattress that you're sleeping on and notice if you've gone far beyond its lifetime. So that this way you can make sure that you're getting a mattress that also supports you, your body, and keeps you comfortable and is at the right firmness level so that this way you can make sure that you're comfortable and supporting your body as you sleep. So let's take a moment just to review my top 10 tips for getting a better night's sleep. And when you have a moment, grab a pen and pencil and write down your sleep routine or even which areas that you can improve in, because when you write things down, then you have a list of things that you can work off of to help you get better results. So first of all, just make sure that you've identified, are you an early bird that catches the worm, or are you a night owl kind of person? Tip number 1 is watch your food intake, your caffeine, sugar, and alcohol, especially making sure that you're not eating right before bedtime. Going to bed on a little bit of an empty stomach is better for your digestion, and it gives you time to digest all your foods. 2 is turn off your screens 30 minutes to an hour before bed. 3 is spending about 30 minutes to an hour outside, especially in the middle of the day. Number 4 is making sure that your room is cool at night between 60 and 64 degrees. Number 5 is creating a nighttime ritual, either with essential oils or meditation or just letting go of the day in some way, shape, or form. Number 6 is making sure you're getting 7.5 to 9.5 hours of sleep and that you're working with your sleep cycles. Number 7 is going to bed and waking up at consistent times every night. Number 8 is only taking a 20 to 30 minute nap and not on a regular basis. Number 9 is getting blackout curtains or some sort of sound machine to help block out extraneous light or sounds at nighttime or when you're sleeping. And number 10 is paying attention to your clothing, your pajamas, your bedding, and your mattress, and making sure that they align with any of the tips that I gave before, so that this way you can manage better quality sleep. So I want to end this episode with a meditation on how we can find solutions to our problems when we sleep. So I want you to sit up nice and tall wherever you are. Obviously, if you're driving a car, please wait to do this when you're in a space that you can, a safe space to be able to do this. And if you want to do this with your eyes open, you can do that as well, because there are some people who benefit from a closed-eyed meditation, but other people with an open-eyed. So do what really works for you. But I want you to either close your eyes or wherever you are, just sit up nice and tall and focus on your breath. And take about 2 to 3 deep breaths just to take your attention and bring it inwards. And in your mind's eye, I want you to bring to your attention something that you need to find a solution for. An area of opportunity and growth that maybe you've been struggling with, or that's been kind of gnawing at you. And I want you to bring that into your attention. And then once you have that area, I want you to imagine it being resolved. What does that look like? What does the solution to your issue, what does that look like for you? And I want you to take a moment just to visualize the solution. And the clearer you can be with your solution about who's involved, what's being said, how is that thing being resolved, how we can find a win-win for everybody involved. And just breathe into your solution. And if you can do this before going to bed, you don't have to worry about the how it's going to happen. You just need to get into the emotion of how it will feel when that issue is resolved, when you find your solution. And then when you're ready, you can crack your eyes open. So this is a great practice to do right as you go into bed, because there is this little space between our waking self and our sleeping self. And if we can connect with the solutions right before we move into that sleep space, then in the morning we can figure out the solutions. We can let the universe figure out the how, so that we can take action and move in that direction. So that's what I've got for you today. If your sleep hygiene is really all over the place and there are many, many different areas in which you need to focus, just pick one to start. Don't try to tackle them all at the same time, because the most effective way of shifting habits is one at a time. So pick one that you want to work on that for about 2 to 3 weeks, let it become a habit, and then pick a second thing that you need to work on, rather than trying to tackle everything all at the same time, because when you do that, it gets overwhelming. If you pick out one thing, work on it, make it habitual, and then move on to the next one. Habits compound over time, and that's what we're really looking for. We're looking for sustainable effort, that this way you can be successful in everything that you do just by working on one thing at a time and then moving forward from there. So have a great day and a great night and a good night's sleep. If you're enjoying this podcast, there's two things that you can do for me. One is you can write me a 5-star review. So however you're listening to this podcast, if you could just review this podcast and let me know what you like about it. If you don't feel like you can give me a 5-star review, please email me directly and let me know what I can do to change either the subject matter or tweak the presentation. And then this way I will personally read the email and I will send you back some information based on your feedback. So that would be really helpful. The other thing is if you could head over to my Patreon page, the link is in the liner notes, and just donate a couple dollars a month to help me to create this great content so that you can really be inspired to put your pieces back together or put them together for the first time to really live more holistically, more happily, more joyfully. That would be amazing. Thank you very much for your support, and I'll see you at the next episode.